How was your week been, Ross? Are you
Very
allowed
quiet.
to recap?
Quiet. I've become Darren Hinch, the human headline.
You have been. We like to write lots of.
Snort.
Because every time he comes on, he says, I'm not going to comment. And then I read the paper the next day, Ross Lyon says this, Ross. And I think back and I think, the man didn't actually say anything yesterday.
Yeah. No, that's fair, Howie. But so you've spoken to Luke, and I don't think we're going to spend too long on this, Ross. But you've spoken to Luke Sayers. Clearly, your hat's in the ring, and Carlton are very excited to have your hat in the ring. Nathan Buckley, we know, is out. What is the next step in this process that you know?
I'm waiting for Luke to loop back. In summary, yeah, Luke reached out, and I said, yeah, I'm keen to go through the process and see if I can step through that and come out the other side with. There's no guarantees. And as reported maybe by even you, Clark, in your esteemed paper, the Herald Sun, that they're establishing a process. So I'm waiting for them to loop back.
They've said 30 to 45 days, Howie. As I understand it, could happen a little bit more quickly than that because other than Ross Lyon, it's really unclear if there are any other serious contenders. But it's fair to say after Melbourne's win last night, Ed Langdon, Ross Lyon's former midfield protege, sort of put his foot in it a little bit, Leroy, when he said this, and we'll talk about it on the back of it.
I've come from, 5 years of the Ross Lyon method, so it is absolutely a nice change to have someone as cool, calm and collected as Goody. I don't think I've heard him raise his voice since I've been at the club, so coming over from Freo when, you don't look Ross in the eye in a meeting and he starts yelling at you, it has been a nice change.
And I felt that as well. How you copped the bake this morning, is that right? He sort of gets some strong feedback at times.
Listen, people like myself often need strong feedback, and I'm happy to take it wherever it comes. So, I heard that and I listened to it. There was a chuckle in Ed's voice. I think sometimes the way things are said and the way they are printed can be very, very different things.
Well, I spoke to Melbourne this morning as they were about to take off. So they took the call on the plane from Adelaide going to Perth. I said, "Can we speak to Ed to get him on the show?" And just because it did really sound like he might have put his foot in it, but Melbourne confirmed, Ross, that he'd already touched base with you this morning. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just stretching my chronic hip, and a text come through from Ed, and hey, Ross, not sure if you saw any of the comments I made after the game, but they were taken completely out of context and poorly worded on my behalf. At this point, I haven't listened to them. And then, I've got nothing but love and respect for you. Hope you and the family are well. So I was like, oh, I better Google. And so I Googled it. Probably two things. Like, if it's legitimate and that's what he meant and it was all seriousness, well, I'm on a journey of growth and a growth mindset. I would take the feedback. And in context of that, and Wayne would know, so it's handy that Wayne's here. So I was an apprentice, an assistant under Dennis, and Wayne was coached by Dennis. So really simply, when you're having meetings, it might be a quarter-time huddle. Like you've got 22 grown men, you've got 44, and you're conducting a meeting, and you're probably boring them, but you might think it's really important. And their eyes drift off. And Dennis's saying was, "Gee whiz, son, if your eyes are on me, good chance you're looking at me. Let's just tune in here." So there'd be occasionally, I'd make no apologies for that. When you're up and you're trying to hold someone to be, look, Absolutely. How about you looking at me, fair chance. So, but I know Ed, he's really dry. I'm not here to defend myself or Ed. Ed can speak for himself, but that's the context I take it in. He's very dry. And he was one of my favourites. But that does concern me because imagine the blokes that are off me. What they're
one of your favourites.
Howie, from press conference experiences, I personally know it. I try and avoid his eye line to be at times because when they start darting across the room left and right, I try and get out of the way. Now, Brown, I want to bring you and Duck in here for 1 second because Luke Sayers throughout the week, interesting comment. He said Carlton wants to play finals or think they are good enough to play finals in 2022. If Ross is the man as we think, and I would say he's $1.02 at this stage, what sort of list does he inherit? And is it a list and a team that should be playing finals next year?
We spoke about this on the All Conquering Sunday Footy Show this morning about Sayers' comments and the fact that he expects to play finals in 2020. I've got no problem with
Say
that.
it again because more people will hear it.
I think, Jay-Z, that's...
Hang on, Brownie. That was a pretty sharp zinger from Duck there.
He's got one away for 2021, Duck. But, You want to hear them talk about playing finals,
Yeah.
and this is a footy club that isn't rebuilding. This is a footy club that has rebuilt already and has players there of the ilk of Cripps and Walsh, and they've got a great spine with Wiedering, and if they can get Cher up, and they've got a really good ruckman coming through, they've got players everywhere. And I said this morning, and I'll say it again, Duck, that if they get Ross Lyon, he is the man. 100% you expect to play finals with that list. I think you'd be disappointed if he didn't play finals next year.
Yep. So to back up what Brownie said, and I actually tipped Carlton to play finals this year. Let's be honest. What were they? 3 games off playing finals footy. I think if Ross Lyon's coach, they play finals footy next year.
But is their midfield? So you look at strengths and weaknesses of the list. We know they've got the
They've
spine.
got the spine.
Have they got the midfield depth? And do they apply?
Well, they've got a pre-season to build on that. They've got picks to build on that.
And
But
a
what about
defensive mindset will help the midfield be able to defend. Now,
And also
the art of... You go, Duck.
No. Well, I thought you know. I thought
I was coming to an end, was I? Just as I was starting to launch into it.
I think there's a number of players at Carlton. You talk about their midfield depth. I think there's a number of players that we thought they were low picks, that we thought were going to go in that direction, and they haven't. So I think there's a number of players that can still come in and be developed more than what they are.
The art of what Ross will bring, and if he does go there, you watch Melbourne
Over to you,
last
Brownie.
night, and Melbourne defended unbelievably well, but they're not working hard when they're defending. So they've got such a good system that they're not spending any petrol tickets running through the midfield. Brisbane spent all the tickets last night trying to find a gap, trying to then get Melbourne or get the football back, whereas as soon as Melbourne got the footy back from Brisbane, they were fresh. They had fresh legs because of the defensive processes, and I think that's what covers a midfielder down or a lack of depth. And if they can get Chera on top of that, I think it's going to be pretty hard to stop that midfield.
Ross, Luke said that you were excited to throw your hat in the ring.
Yeah, for sure. They've during the year, because I've been hammered on this topic for 2 years now, like virtually 2 years, and I it wasn't on the agenda, but it's come to my front door. I haven't gone out the front door searching for anything. That's really
banged down your front door.
They've banged down the front door, theoretically, like with a potential opportunity. So I'm really happy to let the river flow here and see what where I bob out of it. So it is exciting to think about it, and I've been on record as the reasons why there's been a fair bit of a shift. So look, there's a long way to go in the process. I certainly want to respect the process. It's exciting to be even in the conversation of an AFL club, and I'll just go through the process and see. You're in the hands of the process, really, but you got to really. It's not something you can do half baked.
Just on that half baked. Sorry, Clark.
Yeah.
So once you get an idea in your head that you could potentially apply for this position, how much of your normal day-to-day life when you're coming in here and preparing a lot for the radio and you're doing your job with the property group and you're being a father, etc., how much all of a sudden does your mind start to change? Did you watch the footy any differently? And do you start, like, how much are you thinking, right, what do the Blues need to do? What could we do here? What could how do we solve this problem?
Yeah, it's more intently watching the footy. Make sure you watch every minute.
Yeah.
Which clearly I hadn't been doing. And looking at it slightly different, watching that game. And Brownie's right, that defensive system of Melbourne enabled them to counterpunch. Brisbane couldn't get through, but we'd seen it all year. Like there's no luck in finals. And you're not looking for anything new. And look, the intensity, every player, there might be one or two that drift, but you got 22 just really laser sharp focus. So that's where the extra intensity comes from, because there's more at the highest level. But they didn't need to invent it. They played exactly how they've played all year, Melbourne. They're fully equipped. So you look at their systems, and I've spoken about how you need assistants that have been at the strong clubs and want to work with you and to collaborate. Whereas when I went to Fremantle, I just went, which I spoke about last week, this is how we're playing. Yeah. But now it would be a collaboration and what can we do and sign off and then get to the group. So, but again, it's it starts. Because I'd had the gate down, like the borders were shut. I dropped them like WA Premier drops them. Like as I left WA, I dropped that coaching, So, it opens up and you start thinking, and it's more your philosophies and principles that you're hearing to. I spoke to my mentor yesterday, Sean Richardson, for about an hour and a half, who's really helped create the model of pursuing excellence and all that. So, yeah, you're starting to have deeper dive conversations with trusted lieutenants.
And do you start, like, is it... I'm fascinated by this, to how elite people prepare for things. So
This is not your podcast,
no,
Howie.
I know, but it really does. Well,
I love how he drops his voice.
Happy to come on for a fee, Howie.
no. I just like it fascinates me.
all
Do you
about
start
Real Ray Martin style.
writing notes, or is it a doodle here or there, or is it a note, or is it like you're starting to draw stuff out? Or
I'm
what are you
a
doing?
note man. Put it down.
Probably
thoughts.
doodle wasn't the best word. I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I doodle a little bit.
So like you start
I
taking
need to go
notes.
buy an Apple Mac
Right.
so I can.
Well,
I've
you
got all
left your
my
last
thumb
one in Freo,
drives.
didn't
Yeah,
you?
that was my biggest mistake. But yeah, but there's a long, long way of the process to go here. So yeah, the lid's been taken off, and I've said I'm interested in the process, and I'm waiting for Carlton to loop back.
Okay.